I have just taken a bath in this shopping mall, and it is one of the greatest achievements of West self-colonization. Today I will talk about how exactly did Western civilization colonize itself, how it works in various parts of the West, why shopping malls are still big in Eastern Europe, how it compares to colonized nations of Europe, and I will explain how it all affects our today's culture, how we today see the world, and various modern practices that we do. I will explain how there are two parallel universes in many countries of Europe, and how we are constantly switching between first and second, wherever we live in. I think that if you are in the United States, you also may have noticed a similar kind of situation, but it's also very different. So I would like to share with you my thoughts and to discuss with you all of this. So listen and write a comment. I replied to most of the comments and I will have to keep this discussion going. So let's go. I came to the city to participate in film festival that I'm in for 7 years, with films of mine, with artworks of mine, and with other things. But what I noticed today is that as I rode here by bike and then I took a walk to this place where I am now, I have seen multiple very different realities in which people live, in which people do business, in which people operate on daily basis. The first one is very non-gentrified. Visually it looks something like between 90s and 2000s, sometimes even older. It's not so nice, not so cute, not so convenient, but it's at the same time much more human-centered, I would say. We see less days of it in many branches, in many industries, on many streets. And the second reality that I'm in is when I came here into this shopping mall, which is not really huge, which is quite a compact shopping mall that is very modern, that was built just a couple of years ago, that has all the best infrastructure in it, that has this fascinating plane, that has a lot of relax zones, that has a lot of other zones. So I came and took a shower here because it's a hot summer day and I just drove 15 kilometers by bike. And this is something that I could not do in ungentrified part unless I talked to a person, someone let me home and let me use their shower. It's quite an absurd example, but here we may see how gentrified today's culture is both much more convenient, but it's much more convenient in a way that you do not necessarily need to have a deal with people. You don't have to deal with people really. It's quite anonymized. And I will say where it leads to near the end of this video. But well, it has a lot of advantages. I feel very clean, fresh. At the same time, I often believe that there is something missing in this self-colonization, in this gentrification that happened to a lot of parts of Europe, a lot of parts of America, and a lot of other parts of the world. At the second half of previous century, the world has gone through the whole civilizational shift. This Western civilization that we think of now has spread across all of the world, and each country, each nation started to adopt various practices of Western civilization, started to gentrify in a way. We started to see more and more European or American-like cities, institutions, places, designs, aesthetics, and more. Of course, it works both ways, so we also started to see more things from all over the world in the Western world. I do not consider that I was born in the Western world because I was born in Belarus, so into Eastern Europe, so that most of people and powers of Belarus do not consider it to be Western world and now consider it to be opposing Western world, though this is not what I believe majority of Belarusians believes in. My home country may be even more similar to Northern Europe than to actual West. But it's another topic for discussion. It's very strange and weird and not everyone will like it. We see a huge spike, a huge jump in how this Western modern civilization developed. Then we saw a decline of it, especially in places like Middle East, especially in Asia. In 90s, all of those perks of gentrified Western civilization with capitalism, sort of free market, but not really free market system, and a lot of other things like this came into Poland. and it's where I am now. What you see here was not possible in this part of the world like 20-25 years ago. Now it is, and people mostly love it. If you talk to Polish people, like socialist tendencies are not popular here, even though Polish government is somewhat socialist in many ways, especially in comparison to like American government. There is such a consensus that like socialism as an idea, as an ideology, is so bad and so civilizationally, existentially bad, because it was really oppressing all of this region for a lot of decades, and my country as well. And it continues to do this to my country, but not here. There are two sides to gentrification. But why do I say that it is self-colonization? Why do I say that it is like colonization of Europeans or of Westerners by Westerners? Because at some point it stopped to become a steady flow of development. It became a very rapid colonization, sort of it, of market, of aesthetics, of culture, of forms of government. Effects of it are seen well now, especially in places like Eastern Europe. Poland has been a part of Western civilization for a very long time, and still it has two separate worlds. The first one is stuck in time even before 90s, and second one is this ultra super hyper modern Western European market oriented very modern aesthetics, technologically advanced, investments ready, etc. And now I live in a neighborhood which is quite an old neighborhood with a lot of rundown houses, with a lot of non-gentrified companies, small businesses, and I've researched topic of small businesses a lot. I have done a lot of interviews, a lot of researches. When I was studying in university, I was doing a lot of work related to it, and when I became more of a filmmaker and artist, I also done a lot of work related to small business and how small business survives in comparison with larger businesses, or with network businesses, or with franchises, which are also small businesses in a way. There are two worlds, and in the neighborhood where I live, I can go on the street and see a very small glass shop, a person who is making glass, making mirrors, literally. Not modernized, not gentrified. A lot of other similar stores on the street. I see a couple of stores that are like from 90s. Some of them sell goods, some of them sell tech, and most of them look like they were from times of socialist Poland still. And then I go into a complex where I live, and I live in a very modern building, 2010s, with all of infrastructure, a lot of things, this modern living apartment complex that has everything, and it's completely different reality, and I feel really as if I am walking through streets of Cairo and then walking into European part of a city, like which was in it's a whole other rant. 100 years ago, if you visited any kind of place that is outside of Western Europe, you had two parts of a city. In Algeria, in Egypt, in Asian countries, in South America. So you have native part of a city. A native part of a city is usually much less structured. It looks like some European old towns, like in Vilnius. I was living in Vilnius, and it has a very chaotic, non-structured old town, which is very beautiful. But these native parts of town are really poor, unfortunately. Sometimes they are really, really slums. So you visit Cairo in 1920 or in 1930, but really situation may be similar even now in a way. And there is this native part, and also there is this European part, which is very glossy, which is very modernized, very colonized. Actually, a very good comparison will be modern Dubai. So in Dubai there are various neighborhoods which are not really nice, and then there are neighborhoods which are oriented to expats, to migrants, like Western migrants, to tourists, and this is completely different world. So as Dubai self-colonized in a way, in the same way Poland self-colonizes. In the same way many other Western countries have done self-colonizing before. Now I'm going into rant about France. France started to go into self-colonization as early as 790s. In times of French Revolution and rebellions of French people, there was not one and only French language. All of those regions were speaking different languages. They were like different people. And then after revolution, this central government started to colonize all other parts of France. So it's self-colonization, because while many parts of it might have been considered France in a way, they were never similar, they were never same. And this centralized government has colonized it. This self-colonization that happens now happens not only because of government, it happens also because of businesses, markets, initiatives, sometimes non-governmental organizations as well. I would say it's not so harsh, it's not so unpleasant, it doesn't have so much of human toll. In many ways, it's much more beneficial, but it comes with alienation. When it comes to this physical operating system that I made, I now made a demo that shows how it works with my daily tasks, and I recommend you to go to a link that is in description or in pinned comment, and there you may see what is it and how it works and how to apply it to your workflows, to your tasks, to your everyday life in the best way possible. Alienation is a whole other topic to talk about. I have also researched it a lot, especially when it comes to cities, when it comes to urban spaces. But this concept of alienation is about how things that are around you, both things that you work with, both things where you live, people who you communicate to, objects that you have, are alienated from you by our modernized society. So while society gives us a lot of convenience, and it's very convenient to go here, to sit here, and to work here while I'm traveling, it's also quite alienating. It's a very anonymous space where people are coming with each other or on their own and not really meeting a lot together. There is this whole paradigm of third places, but these spaces do not act as great third places. You can go to it with your friends, but it's not a place where you will make a lot of friends. It's not like a pub in Ireland. Another thing to go to when it comes to self-colonization is that there are countries that do actively self-colonize in this state-centered way. My home country, Belarus, I think, also does it. Not only because it colonizes its own Belarusian language with changing it to Russian language. Some would say that it's external colonization, but it's happening by its own government. It's happening by its own establishment. What we see there is Belarusian language, which I'm speaking, drops more and more and more because of how government neglects it. It doesn't just ignore it. It doesn't exist on market conditions. If Belarusian language existed in market conditions only, I think it would have much better time than it has now. In many ways, Belarusian language is being actively discriminated against. And this is what I experienced when I was living in Belarus since I was a teen. It became much more harsh, as many people state, but even though it is this, many Belarusians turn to this language to explore it and to see how it works. And maybe they don't start to speak it in public places because it has not societal stigma, but governmental stigma, because while society and people around think good about Belarusian language, it's not necessarily the same with, for example, Belarusian police and Belarusian other organs. Self-colonization may be done in various ways, and Western civilization has managed to find a way in which it is done in a more civilized way, in a way that does not have a huge human toll, in a way that does not mean a lot of repressions constantly. And this is why I love sitting here in this mall, even though it is quite alienating, even though it is anonymous, even though it's not a great place to meet new friends, even though it's not a place to make a lot of deals with people. Even if it is like this, I'm so grateful to have such an option as well. It may sound quite absurd that I'm sitting in some kind of mall waiting for my festival to start, but I'm really grateful to be able to visit such a place, just to be touched by no one, just to be here on my own, to look at what's happening, to go and visit some of the shops, to sit and work with my notebooks, writings, with my artworks. And this is why I think that this European and Western self-colonization, from something bloody and something awful, which it was in 18th century, begin to be looking like this.